6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on, come on, come on. Faster. 2, 1, 0. Blast off. Hi! Hello, hello. Welcome to Tomes and Tunes. I am your host, Arielle Silver. I am based in Los Angeles. I'm a singer-songwriter and also a literary writer, and I love talking about books with songwriters. This show started 31 weeks ago during COVID, obviously, and it was my attempt, I guess, to somehow forge a connection with other songwriters during this time when we wouldn't be bumping into each other at clubs and house concerts and things like that. And it has been one of the highlights of this very strange year for me, amid a lot of sadness and devastation and tragedy and uncertainty in general. This has actually been a guiding light every week, every Thursday. I am very excited this week, 31. We're making our way steadily to the end of the year. And I have as my special guest Arthur Autumn. He is from Detroit and he is based in Los Angeles. And one of the awesome things about this show is that I have been able to have as my guests some people that I've actually never bumped into or haven't actually shared the stage with yet. Arthur Autumn and I we had a couple of gigs planned for 2020. And we had exchanged many, many emails at the beginning of the year. And then when COVID hit, of course, it was like, is this still on? No, I don't think so. What's happening? And now here we finally do get to sit face to face, if not side by side, and talk. So I'm going to bring him in right now. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Before we get into anything, I want to say that Arthur Autumn is the name that you do your solo work under. And a lot of people also know you through, you do amazing covers as well. So and I'm always struck by this because the cover songs that I have heard you do, they to me show someone who really studies vocal inflection. I don't know, like, I don't mean like book study, but just like you really have, it almost seems like when I hear you sing a Killers song or something like that, like I just get the sense that you have gone into the song. You're not just covering the surface of it, you're inside the song and performing it as if it's your own. And yet at the same time, you're also a really fantastic songwriter. I really love your work. So
Thank you. Thank you.
but how did you end up doing? What came first for you? Writing originals or performing covers, or what is the relationship with that?
No, I think it kind of started when you're really young and you're kind of in clubs and you want to get out and play and you want to kind of attract attention. So you would kind of write your own songs. I've always been a songwriter with bands and on my own. And then to get these clubs to pay attention to you, you throw in a cover and then you do an original. So it kind of started from that. And then, always a songwriter at heart, but I think it's very important to, study the great songwriters that came before and kind of pull from everyone, whether it's, Mos Def or Chuck D or Jeff Buckley or David Bowie, Etta James, Nina Simone, the list is long, Howlin' Wolf, and just kind of interpret it. I mean, I think if you're a doctor, you go to school to research and learn and study. If you're a musician, I think it should be the same thing, that you are familiar with, classical. And I'd like to think I'm just as familiar with Judy Garland as I am Robert Plant, and that's really important to me to kind of have a lot of different paintbrushes to pull from. And then when you get the chance to interpret someone else's work, I think with the bands, it's I tell them play these songs as if they're your own. We're not just wearing flip flops in the corner of Joe's Pub playing Brown Eyed Girl. It's like we're kind of trying to deliver these songs as if they came from ourselves. And I'm grateful to perform with a lot of great musicians, and they can inflect their own influence into these songs, and I try to do the same, and we try to interpret them in a different way. But I think if you are going to do a cover, nod to that song and the work that they did, because chances are they labored over the tempo and the mix, and they've done all the work, and if it's on your radar, it's probably something great, so you kind of have to nod to that. But I also think it's like, why do a cover if it's exactly the same, you know? So like with the Killers song, we kind of wanted to just, strip it back to its raw element of just maybe Brandon Flowers at the piano and where it started. And then we kind of took it all back, maintained the melodies. And I think we struggled back and forth with the proper tempo. And then we kind of made it piano based, but we went back and forth because the tempo was, if it's too sluggish, it ruins it. If it's too quick, it doesn't capture the vibe. So Chris Sestrick and I, this is during COVID, so we were figuring it out, not in the same room and miles apart. So I said, Chris, a little bit slower. What is that, 116? Okay, try 115. And I was probably driving him nuts, I'm sure. And we ended up just keeping the same tempo of the Killers song. And in fact, they actually fluctuate tempo in certain areas. So we had to kind of figure that out. But we ended up with the same tempo. It just felt right. And then we stripped it all back and made it piano based and bongos and vibraphone and kind of reinterpret it. But you have to nod to the melody first because it brought the song to you. But at the same time, you can kind of, with instrumentation, and I love working with different kind of instrumentation, whether it's sitar or horns, and through that it's kind of like writing a song. If there's a harmonium on the floor and that's what's available to you, you sit down and try to figure out something on that instrument. So anytime you take a different instrument or build it with different tools, it's going to sound different. So I think you start with that, and that's kind of how you do it. But it's always from a songwriter in your heart first. It always starts with that.
Yeah, it's so. To me, it's interesting to learn other people's songs from that mindset of being a songwriter. Like, why did they make the decision that they made?
Mm-hmm.
The song that you're talking about, that you're kind of a community builder yourself. You at the beginning of COVID invited a lot of songwriters to, or a lot of artists anyway, to sing a little bit of that song, and in that way, the video that came out of it really has this community feel. Actually, I didn't watch it this week in preparation for this, but now that I'm talking about it, I want to find it again. I'm gonna put a link to it in the show notes in a little bit. But even before COVID, you and I had first started emailing because you, as a kind of a gatherer of songwriters into a community, you create these nights that are like Pearl Jam cover night, Doors cover night, that sort of thing, like inviting other songwriters in to reinterpret these bands, right? These songwriters. How did that start? When did that start?
Wow. I think we had started at Lost Property, actually. My buddy Rhino had given us a residency, and my partner at the time that I was working with, we're trying to figure out, how can we bring the community together quickly and make it a positive night where people are going to gather. And I think I want to develop more to what you're doing with an artist-on-artist interview and songwriter round. But first you got to get in the door. So like, well, what can we do? And then, how did the concept start? The concept, I think it was just, why don't we just pick an artist and have people interpret that person's music? So. We've done Dolly Parton, we've done Michael Jackson, we've done David Bowie, we've done, of course, the Beatles. I'm so
sad that I missed Dolly Night. I am so sad
about that. I'm a huge fan. But what's fascinating about it is, number one, we met great songwriters in the area. We create a community. People support one another. That's a huge thing. And then it also brings people in, so everybody gets exposure to new people and an actual audience. Yeah. And we started doing it, and we did the Stones, and we did Bowie. Was a magical night, and we just grew. And I worked with Hotel Cafe is kind of my home
Yeah.
as a songwriter, and they've really been good to me and welcomed me, and I got to know Gina and Marco and James over there, and Dan, so many great people, and it grew at Lost Property. Like, we were packing the place, and it was going really well. And I said, Rhino, we got to move. I'm so sorry. We're gonna have. And he's like, oh, I totally understand. I'm really happy that it's going so well. So then we started at Hotel Cafe and started doing it there with a bigger room, and it's just thrilling to watch someone take, a song. It's education for me, and it's inspiring for me to see someone take a Nirvana song and play it on a banjo, or strip it down to piano. And I think there's a lot of events in Los Angeles and all over the place where there's a backing band. And what's unique about the Sunday Night Review is that we don't want that, because I don't want to tell people how to interpret, because once you take that song, it becomes their art and how they want to interpret it. And that's what's exciting for me. I wouldn't want to just do Nirvana's in Bloom with a backing band and just have a singer, because that just becomes a singer thing. And no offense to people that are doing that, that's great. But at the Sunday Night Review, we want to do something a little bit different where people can, it's up to their, however they want to interpret the song, So if they want to play a kazoo, to John Lennon's Imagine, that's wonderful. They can do that. So that's part of it, and it just builds. It was building a community, and I think maybe artists that had kind of banged on the door at the Hotel Cafe that didn't have an opportunity to play there, we were able to help get them on that stage, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see people that started with the Sunday Night Review to be playing shows together when we could, or recording together and being friends. And almost on a daily basis, I see someone that was connected from the Sunday Night Review. They're friends, and that's what we want to create, a community in a sense of like, hey, I want to come to your shows, and I want to buy your records, and I want to support you, and that's just what it's all about. And I think as you go up the line, and we talked about this briefly the other night, if you've got some sort of platform, whatever, how big or small, and you can help others lift them up, I'm happy to do that. So I think that's at the heart of the Sunday Night Review, and I've just been inspired by so many of them, and it's pretty neat.
We talked the other night about how you're from Detroit, and I spent many years in the Boston songwriting scene, and in those two cities, I've never been to Detroit, not yet. But
it's a beautiful city.
Well, like I told you, I have a dear friend who's right now on the front lines of COVID over there, but I hope to get out there some point. But both of those cities, I gather from talking with you that there's a real community around songwriters, and same with Boston for sure. There's a real community around it, and you said that when you came to LA, you were kind of looking for that. And it's not just songwriting. I think that whenever anybody comes to Los Angeles, it's a sprawling city without a central hub, really. And so you came and you were like, okay, I'm gonna start to create a central hub, or one of perhaps many, but some place for songwriters to connect. And it's funny how our instincts, the thing that we need, if we follow that need and try to create, be the change that we want to see in the world, how that fills the need that other people have as well.
And it hopefully inspires them to kind of do the same. When they have that opportunity.
I just want to say shout out to hey Shane, hey Mark, I see you. Hola from Tejas. Am I saying it right when I say that, Mark? You let me know in the chat box. But thanks for being here. So okay, so we talked about cover songs, and I'm curious, stay with me for a second. So there's this movie.
I'm with you. I'm stuck with you.
I got you
I'm
here.
here.
So
here.
there's a movie called But I'm a Cheerleader, and RuPaul is in this movie. It came out a long time ago. I want to say in the 90s. And he is a camp counselor for a gay conversion camp, meaning it was like a Christian, like it was a kind of a spoof, and it was like a Christian camp that was supposed to save the kids who their parents had found out they were gay, and so they sent them to this conversion camp, right? But RuPaul is the camp counselor.
I'll have to check that out. What's it called?
It's called But I'm a Cheerleader. It's very, very campy, as you would expect. Bright colors. And one thing that really stuck with me about the movie, all these years, I saw it, I don't know what year it was, a long time ago, but all these years, this is one part that stuck out to me, which is they ask all of their students or camp attendees, I don't know what you would call them, campers, there we go, campers. The campers. They ask them, what is your root? And when in the movie they mean like, what made you gay? That's part of their conversion question. But I'm kind of curious from songwriters, like what made you, if you were to go back to your root, the root of your life as a songwriter, can you think of one? Where did it start?
When I first started, I remember, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a very big band from Michigan that kind of took us under their wing. I was a little bit younger than them, but they were kind of opening for Kid. They had the big hit and, all that, and they were doing quite well, and they lived in East Lansing, where I was from. And I got to know the drummer and the keyboard player, and those watching probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But they kind of, one of them introduced me to Jeff Buckley and handed me a tape and said, this is a guy, this is like in, I don't know, early 2000s, late, maybe 1999, somewhere around there. And they kind of took us under their wing, and I remember getting to know the singer a little bit, Brian, and I remember being at one of their shows, and we had kind of hung out throughout the years, and as musicians do, some of those memories are foggy. But anyway, I remember asking him, and he's much taller than me, and I'm not a short person, but he's like 6'6". So I remember just kind of feeling like I was like just like a little kid to him. He was like this figure of someone that, I can look up to literally, which is very rare. And I said, how do you write a song, and how are you dealing with everything right now? And he said, listen to the Beatles. And it kind of comes full circle about talking about interpreting songs and studying the greats. Like if you listen to McCartney, you're like, well, it's not nearly a song as good as that McCartney song. I'm going to push harder. And we probably won't reach it. Very few people do, but you keep pushing. And, he said, listen to the Beatles. I asked him several years later if he remembered that conversation. He said, I said that? So I guess he retracted a bit. But I think that's where it started. Just Bob Dylan was a huge one. Actually, I think being a young kid and watching the Wonder Years, actually, I learned there's so much music in the 60s.
That's right.
From watching that show, and I was just kind of coming up, and I was just a little kid, and but I learned so much, like Joe Cocker and Dylan, and really that's kind of where it started for me. And then obviously you go from there, but there's something, a little spark that gets lit, and just watching this. So I think that's where it started, and then just the drive to get stuff out of you that you've held for a long time that might have been painful, and in finding a place where you could be. Because up until music, I never really felt like I belonged anywhere, like I was an alien. So then when you find music and you find whatever band that turns you on, the Ramones or whoever it is, and they Minor Threat or Black Flag or whatever band that really spoke to you, And then you start your own band, and you get in a garage, and you play songs, and then you're like, wow, I belong. You know, it's kind of like that bee and the bee girl, that Blind Melon video, where the bee was like, she was
That's
kind of all
right.
by herself, and then she got
Yeah.
into the field of other bees, and she's happy. So it's kind of, it was a drive to like just find a home, I guess, find where to be and where I
Yeah.
can express myself, and then it kind of went on to painting and whatever opportunity I get. But that's kind of where it started, I think, I guess.
There's this Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love, and that was a giant
Yeah, it was.
blockbuster of a book and also of a movie.
Julia
Um,
Roberts, is that right?
Roberts, yeah. You know that you've
Yeah.
made it when Julia Roberts plays your character, in a
Sure. Wow.
on screen. But Elizabeth Gilbert has a really one of the top watched TED Talks about creativity, and then she also has another. She has two TED Talks. So the first one. Many people have seen it's fantastic, and the second one, many people have also seen the second one. But she recorded it a few years later, and I was just playing it last night for a group of people that I should not be. What is the word I'm looking for? I shouldn't be coy about it.
Yeah.
A group of people. They're students in a course that I was teaching, and last night I just showed them this video. And at the end of the video, Elizabeth Gilbert, both TED Talks are about the creative process or being a creator. And they're about blocks and overcoming blocks and what
Yeah.
is inspiration and the muse and genius. Um, and in the second TED Talk, she at the end talks about home. When you have had crazy wild success, Julia Roberts has played your character. You've become wildly famous and probably wealthy on your success. Well, then what do you do? Her second TED Talk is like, then what? Because that's kind of a weird thing to grapple with after that happens. How do you
Yeah.
continue to wake up and get to your desk and do the work that you feel that you were put on the planet to do? And at the very end of the talk, she says kind of what you were just saying, about that sense of home, like coming back to that original place where you found a sense of
Yeah.
belonging, where you
Sure.
found a sense of meaning and security, regardless of, the physical home where you live or, nothing like that, but this like
Yeah. Sure.
creative home. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can always find your way back, and I think lifetime artists. There's songwriters that I admire that just continuously do meaningful work, whether it's six number one records in a row, or just put out great records. So I think it's kind of staying grounded, and not listening to the compliments, and not listening to maybe listening to the bad reviews to see how you can improve, but not really taking the praise. Just kind of like, I remember seeing an interview where it was David Bowie, and he had a tendency to get kind of antsy in interviews, and he kind of get agitated by people. And this one interviewer said, this was at his peak in the '70s, and they're like, David, you're like a messiah to these kids, and he instantly said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not, because he didn't want to feel that pressure. He's like, he said, no, I'm not. It's just my work. It's just my work.
Right, he put a
That's my
space
work.
between
Yeah,
who
and
he was, all of the complexity of him as a person.
yeah, and I really think if to keep yourself grounded and focused, I think it's good to just look at just like it is your work. Like you go into the room wherever you work, and you pick up a guitar, you sit down at the piano, and you open up your notebook, and it may be empty, and you just work. You just put in the work like anybody else does, And maybe there's certain times where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna focus. Maybe I just get one line, and then I was talking to a friend recently where I think I have like 2 hours of creative burst, and then it's gone till the next day, or I just start dialing it in, and I never want to do that, so I just stop. So in that period, like, maybe I'll get one line, maybe I'll get the chorus, maybe I'll get the start of a painting, and not beat yourself up, but just put in the work. And I think it was Picasso. Oh shoot, don't quote me, but I think he said, "Inspiration will find you, but it must find you working." And that's, you just have to put in the work, and you just have to do the work. And I think one of the techniques that Nick Cave does is that if you ever see Nick Cave, he's always wearing a black suit. So every day he'll put on his suit and he'll go compose. He'll go write every day from like 8 to 5, just like any other job. Mm-hmm. And that's Nick Cave's way. So it's kind of, I think if you can just get to that central spot, and your life changes and you grow, and I think you have to adapt to where you are in your life. And I think if you just kind of, if it just comes from here and you keep it from here, and you keep your feet on the ground, I think you can continue to do good work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you just mentioned something that I think of as like steadiness, steady focus, but also ease. Like you can move with the times, you know, whatever comes up, but also you stay steady in, you know, stay steady in your work. You show up.
Yeah.
You know, and within that space, you can kind of move a little bit.
Yeah.
I have a really important question to ask you.
Oh, wow.
Related to the show, Tomes and Tunes. Have you been reading anything lately? Or what have you been reading lately?
Yeah. I'm always kind of trying to read something. I think in the mornings I have kind of a ritual where I read some stuff, and currently it's Buddhism, kind of studying that, which I've always, throughout the years, I've always kind of studied that. And then I kind of, as you know, I'm kind of in the process of different things, so it's a lot of business stuff, which is kind of boring. And because reading, to me, I thought about this earlier, is like, it's such a luxury, and I don't have a whole lot of time to do it. But I went back and I started reading, again, Ishmael. Yeah. Do you know Ishmael? Are you familiar with that book?
Is it just called Ishmael? I feel like
it
came
is.
Up recently on this show.
Really? Well, it's very related to the times. Daniel Quinn is the writer, and it's basically about, and it's very fitting for the times. It's basically about a gorilla who is in conversation with man, and the gorilla is telling the man like how you're destroying the planet, and giving him lessons in this conversation from the gorilla's perspective. And it's pretty brilliant, and I think it's quite fitting for the time. So I've just kind of started reading it again.
So interesting.
Kind of philosophy.
Is there a passage from that book that you would like to share?
Sure. This kind of sums it up, I think. I kind of went through. The nice thing about books is that you always go through and you make notes, and there's like little outlines, and you underline things and to remember later.
Yeah,
so,
my books are exactly like that.
Plane tickets and all kinds of stuff. All right, so I can read this. This kind of sums up the whole thing. All right, so we now have in place all the major elements of your culture's explanation of how things came to be this way. The world was given to man to turn into a paradise, but he's always screwed it up. But he's fundamentally flawed. He might be able to do something about this if he knew how he ought to live, but he doesn't, and he never will, because no knowledge about that is attainable. So however hard man might labor to turn the world into a paradise, he's probably just going to go on screwing it up. That's from the gorilla to man. And I think what we're facing now, can I just keep reading?
Please. Yeah.
No, I mean on my own. No.
Oh.
But I think it's just
Peace
like
out, we'll see you later.
Yeah, I need some tea. I think what's happening now in the world with the pandemic and the wildfires, I think it's just like someone telling us, okay, you're grounded. It's Mother Earth saying, you're grounded. Take care of it, fix it now. So I think this book is so important for the times. And this book, I think, influenced what Pearl Jam. We were talking about Eddie Vedder the other day. This book, I think, influenced Yield, the Pearl Jam record Yield, from Eddie's standpoint. Do the Evolution, which is a fascinating video, by the way. But yeah, so I think it's just it's a crucial book right now. And I'm rereading it. So that's kind of what I've been up to, aside from business things and trying to do stuff like that. But
all the other stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
that idea of grounding, when we, ground our kids or whatever, or when we've been
mm,
grounded by our parents, it's like you're grounded. You can't go out for a
yeah,
year and a half until they have
yeah,
a vaccine, right? Like you're
yeah.
grounded because you have been,
You haven't listened.
you've been
Yeah,
acting erratically. You haven't been aligned with
yeah,
your values. You haven't been moving in integrity in
right.
some way. And so come back to your house, stay in your room. You can't go out. And yeah, and I think that what is the impulse? Why do parents do that? They believe that when you come back to the home, you can quiet your energy and become
To
reflective,
think, yeah,
introspective. Right, exactly. And it's like the people that have been rebelling against this time, and I know that it's a deeply uncomfortable time for
yeah.
many people. Um, but I wish that we could all just sort of take that spiritual perspective and just say, hey, you know what? Yeah, maybe I did need to be grounded a little bit. And
Yeah,
maybe that's
think,
uncomfortable. And it was uncomfortable when I was 14 and getting grounded, and it's uncomfortable now.
yeah,
Yeah, but maybe there's something spiritual to be gained from this time.
yeah. I know it's very difficult for a lot of people, and I think ourselves as artists, we're. I'm very grateful that I have an outlet.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah,
people
yeah,
that
yeah.
are suffering with the same thing and being stuck at home and nothing to do. I mean, I'm grateful I can go sit at a piano,
Yeah.
or I can go paint, or I can go for a hike. But some people don't have that, so and that's where it's really dangerous, and that's where your kind of heart goes out to people that you know don't have somewhere to put that energy and to
Mm.
sort things out. It's literally like kind of a file cabinet in your brain, your heart, and your soul to sort all these things out. And I'm grateful for that. And it's a difficult time, and I think anytime you go through pain, um, I think it's important to kind of build a garden out
Mm.
of that somehow and find, not to sound cliche, but find that liner, that silver um, inside, and come out stronger than you were going into it. And I think
Yeah.
that's important. But on a macro level, we all should be looking at ways that, glass bottle versus plastic.
Yeah.
Don't waste the plastic. That's a little tiny thing that I've implemented and worked harder on. Or, bring your own cloth bags to the grocery store. There's all little steps that we can do, and it's not just for us. It's for our grandchildren who we'd like to have trees for them to climb in.
Yeah.
So it's like we all have to make the steps. We all have to be environmentalists, and if we can learn from this by being grounded and having the time to absorb it and think about it and readjust and walk out that door stronger and better than being grounded was the thing that should have happened.
Yeah.
you
Totally.
know but just my
Um,
thoughts.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
In terms of what I've been reading lately, I was reflecting
Please.
today on. I've read a lot of really great books during COVID that I had wanted to get to and hadn't
Yeah.
yet. And I was just reflecting on some of them earlier today. I finally got around to reading Barbara Kingsolver's The Poisonwood Bible. That was at the beginning of COVID. It's such a phenomenal book. I read a lot of a lot of I, just books that I've shared on this show
Yeah.
previously, and I left them all in the house today when I came in here to do this. But I have a few books in here. They're mostly books about creativity or creative process,
Great.
or about
Yeah.
the craft of writing, because I teach classes on all that stuff. And I grabbed this one. This is sort of a classic. Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird. Gosh, can I get it on the screen without it being too blown out? There we go. This is such
Got
a
it.
great book. And like you, I have like post-it notes and dog ears everywhere. But I opened it up to this little passage and
Dog ears. I've never heard it called
Oh
that.
yeah?
Interesting.
Yeah, dog ears.
Is that what these are?
Yeah. Well, no, it's like when you turn the corner
Oh!
down on the page.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
I do remember those from grade school. I don't typically do the dog ears. I usually do a little...
I have a love-hate relationship with the fact that I do it. I feel like I ruin my books because I write in them and, well, what can I do? But
They're never ruined. I love that sort. I think it puts your own soul into them somehow.
Yeah.
You know, and you can revisit, right? You can revisit.
Well, you
and look
become
at
you kind of turn a book into a dialogue, into a conversation, and you're responding. You're on the other side of the conversation. So this is Bird by Bird, and the subtitle is Some Instructions on Writing and Life. And I had a student in my class that I was teaching last night. He brought up the idea of imposter syndrome, and when I opened this book today, I kind of opened right up to a place where she starts to talk about that idea of when we feel like we're an imposter, like we don't belong in the place that we want to be. So this is about halfway through the book, and it's a chapter called Radio Station KFKD.
Mm-hmm.
I need to bring up radio station KFKD, or K-fucked, here. It is perhaps the single greatest obstacle to listening to your broccoli that exists for writers. Then I promise I'll never mention it again. If you are not careful, station KFKD will play in your head 24 hours a day, nonstop, in stereo. Out of the right speaker in your inner ear will come the endless stream of self-aggrandizement, the recitation of one's specialness, of how much more open and gifted and brilliant and knowing and misunderstood and humble one is. Out of the left speaker will be the rap songs of self-loathing, the lists of all the things one doesn't do well, of all the mistakes one has made today and over an entire lifetime, the doubt, the assertion that everything that one touches turns to shit, that one doesn't do relationships well, that one is in every way a fraud, incapable of selfless love, that one has no talent or insight, and on and on and on and on. You might as well have heavy metal music piped in through headphones while you're trying to get your work done. You have to get things quiet in your head so you can hear your characters and let them guide your story. Now, she's a literary writer, so that's her reference there. And she says the best way to get quiet, other than the combination of extensive therapy, Prozac, and a lobotomy, is to first notice that the station is on. KFKD is on every single morning when I sit down at my desk. So I sit for a moment and then say a small prayer. Please help me get out of the way so I can write what wants to be written. Sometimes ritual quiets the racket. Try it. Any number of things may work for you. An altar, for example, or votive candles, sage smudges, breathing. And then I'm going to skip a little bit to the very end of this chapter where she says, she goes on and on about breathing and this radio station. And then she tells a little anecdote. And then at the end of that, she says that she picked up I think an article or something, and she said, I started to read, and within a page came upon this beautiful passage. Quote, the Gulf Stream will flow through a straw, provided the straw is aligned to the Gulf Stream and not at cross purposes with it. And then she ends the chapter by saying, when KFKD is playing, we are at cross purposes with the river. So we need to sit there and breathe, calm ourselves down, push back our sleeves, and begin again. And I love that idea of that being at cross purposes with the river versus the idea that the Gulf Stream will flow through a straw, provided the straw is aligned with the
Making
Gulf
sure
Stream.
that straw is directed in the right place to get to the source.
Yeah,
that's very good. Yeah, you're a much better public reader than I am. Yeah. You have a lot more practice with that.
You know what's funny? I think the first time I ever, well, other than like school, but I think the first time that I actually voluntarily read aloud to someone was in middle school. I found a copy of Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha.
I love that one.
I found that on a bookshelf in my home, and
where is that one?
I didn't know what.
So I'm looking through the bookshelf. It's in there. Sorry.
Yeah, it's on my nightstand now, but but I found this book and I didn't. It seemed out of place in my family. I don't know where the book came from. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea, but I was intrigued by it, and it had such a strange name, Siddhartha.
Siddhartha, which is the Buddha,
Yeah,
which
I
is
had
his,
never
his common name.
encountered it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the first time I started reading aloud, I called my friend up. It was middle school. We were probably, I don't know, 12. And I said, hey, Nigel, I found this book. Can I read a chapter or a few pages to you aloud
Wow.
over the phone, every night or something like that for a while? And so we agreed to do that. And I don't know if Nigel remembers us doing that, but that was
I hope so. I bet he does. I'm
that
sure
was
he
one of
does.
the first things, yeah. So
I'm sure he does.
so I don't know. So somehow I have managed to keep reading aloud to, I don't know. Years ago, I worked at a dance and music retreat, and the other people that worked at this place with me, occasionally at night they would all gather in my little cabin, and I read aloud a book to them. So I don't know how this has happened, but I don't know.
I'm also reading, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I'm reading Elton John's biography,
Oh,
Me, which is very good. And that's been hanging around for like, I think I took it back last Christmas to start reading it. I just finally, it's almost finished, but
maybe
that's
it's a
quite a
Christmas
journey.
time thing. It's a Christmas
Yeah,
time
for
thing for you.
sure. I'll have some time to do it come up here, but quite a journey he's had.
Oh.
Quite a journey. I don't know if you're an Elton John fan, but those early records from the '70s talk about songwriting. Whew,
You know what's
so
funny
good.
is that I have increasingly become an Elton John fan over the years. When I was a child, I can't explain why, but there was something about his writing that rubbed me the wrong way. And this was
Interesting.
before I was a songwriter. It was just like, or I don't know if it was even the music. I think it might have been the front cover of Yellow Brick Road.
Interesting. A friend just gave that to me recently.
We had that
Was that
record
nice?
in my house growing up, and I hated the cover.
Interesting. Do I have
And
that? I just had it out. It's been filed. I don't know.
I
Shoot, I
responded
had it
really
sitting there.
viscerally. I responded
It
really
is. It's.
viscerally to that cover, and
That's interesting.
it like colored the music for me in a negative way.
He's in like some sort of golf outfit, right? Doesn't he have like a newspaper boy hat or something, and some
Yeah.
plaid pants or something? I think it's filed. I'm not gonna be able to find it quickly, but yeah, I got into like the early stuff, like Captain Fantastic, which that album cover might inspire you more. That's pretty amazing. Or Tumbleweed Connection. Whew, those records are just like just magic to me. Just the warm analog sound and the songwriting, and just the vibe. Huge fan of those records. Yeah, for
Speaking
sure.
of records, can we hear a song of yours?
Yeah, this hasn't been recorded to record yet, but this would be a new one from the quarantine stockpile. Is that all right?
Oh yeah,
Is that
please. That'd be
playing
great.
something like that? All right. I'm just gonna have a bit of water. So yeah, this one was part of the whole over the last couple of months, kind of addressing what's happening. And then you're gonna play one? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna play one?
Yeah, I'll close out the show with a song.
Alright. Alright. So let's see. I think I'm gonna take these off. Is that alright then?
Yeah, perfectly fine. Can't hear me right now. What should I say? Here we go.
When the lights go out, when the lights go out, I read the news today, young girl, about lucky world, now we fail great. Millions down to say the check's in the mail. You better cash your chips, I ain't betting on this. Now we're spinning out of control, lost out in space, this human trace. When the circus tent goes close, last one out, he's locking all the doors. We're further away, but still staying close. Learn how to take it slow while moving so fast. With tears that sting, we got fears that bite. Like a night come by without a saving net. Like a shadow light in the tide. Like spies on rooftops, it's a sabotage. We're screaming way, 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 we've got more to say. We're screaming way, 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 I've got more to say. Before the lights go out, before the lights go out. Looking for answers in the midday sun. Have we exhausted each gentle reply? I wouldn't blame her if she turned her back. We slip on time in the hourglass. What have we done, dear Julia? What have we done, dear Julia? Well, now we're spinning out of control, lost out in space, this human taste. When the circus tent goes close, last one out, he's locking all the doors. Let's scream, wait, 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 we've got more to say. We're screaming, wait, 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 I've got more to say. Before the lights go out, before the lights go out, we'll join together, yeah, when the lights go out. We'll join together, yeah, when the lights go out. When the lights go out. When the lights go out.
When the lights go out. Hey, he can't hear me right now. But, oh, isn't that so beautiful? When the lights go out.
Here you go.
Na 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 na.
There you go. We'll track it.
Na 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 na. So lovely.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Na na na.
I want to kind
love
of keep it
circus
simple.
imagery. I like circus imagery too, and that really stuck out to me. The circus imagery.
Yeah, it was kind of, I'm not one to tell people what songs are about because that excludes them from being a part of it, but I don't want to tell the whole story. But I was on a walk after, when everything we were issued to stay home, and it was just like all the lights were out, and it's like, now what do we do? But it was just kind of just commentating. I'm looking at the lyric now, and it kind of goes right back to Ishmael. Like we're being, like we need to wake up, and the circus tent is closed, and the last one out locks all the doors, and screaming, wait, 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 we've got more to say. Like, give us a chance to fix this and to stick around for a little while. But that is kind of commentary on that. And
I just love that motif that comes back. So pretty.
thank you. Yeah, I wanted to kind of keep it simple, and I try to like to. Sometimes when you write in metaphors, sometimes you just want to be really direct, and there's metaphors here, and that leads me to another songwriting technique that may help you and anybody else who's listening, like for writer's block.
Yeah, do share.
Well, what I had started doing actually on this song, and it's, I'll share the lines after, but if I get stuck on a particular part of the song and I have a writer's block, I'll just randomly pick up a book, and I'll just go to a page and I'll point my finger, and like whatever is there, I'll infuse that into the song, and it'll take me somewhere else. Like the lines in this song, like an acrobat without a safety net, and there's other. Hold on, I'm so sorry. I'm looking, and I think the screaming, wait, 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 we've got more to say. I think is from. There's another line, like spies on rooftops, it's a sabotage, was directly from George Orwell's 1984. And it like worked, and let me see if I can find the line really quick. I probably paraphrased it a bit, but the idea was to kind of take me to another place creatively.
Yeah.
And it kind of guided and those lines are like in the song. I want to see if I can find
I like that
Thought
technique.
Police. You've read this book, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, I have.
I'm trying to see, but it's worked for me. It's like a trigger to spark your creativity that you wouldn't have. Like I wouldn't have thought sabotage for the song, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't have thought spies, but they're directly from this book, and it just kind of informed those lines. I don't know if I'll be able to find it direct.
Yeah.
Have you read this book?
I have read, yeah, and I'm trying to remember now if I read it when I was a kid, but then I reread it. I can't remember now if I reread it before or after the Trump presidency. I think it was before. It was just so ever present in my mind at that point. But I'm pretty sure that I reread it sometime in the last 10 years, but I don't think within the last 4. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those books that you can kind of continuously go back to and reread.
Yeah, and also very frightening.
I actually did. Go ahead.
Too close. It was a little too close to home in recent times.
I was just thinking the same thing. Like maybe I shouldn't read it.
Actually. I was reading The Hunger Games, actually. I read the Hunger Games, and I watched the Hunger Games series a couple of times in recent times, and I was just really drawn to it. Oh, Mark, technical difficulties. Yes, I know. I think that it's worked out now, though.
What happened?
There was just like a little blip in the upload speed for a minute.
Here it is. Okay, here it is. So if you can see this, can you see like the squares where I've squared off?
Yeah, I can see like darker. Yeah.
So basically, it's the word sabotage, spies, and rooftops. That all like I just picked those words. I don't know. It's just kind of a technique I'm really excited about.
You know what?
It's not even a technique.
This is actually really close to something that they call erasure poetry. Have you ever done that? I wish that I had an example of it in here. I don't. I have it in the house, but
is that like the collage, the different words, and you put them?
It's like you take a page and you block out. You cross. Either you do what you did, where you circle some of the words and you make a poem out of the words that are present on the page, or you can take a Sharpie or something and block off all of the other words and just have those select words. Yeah. It's kind of like it feels to me like a crossword puzzle. Every once in a while, I have an old book that I picked up at a yard sale once, and it's really like not an interesting book in any way, but it has a lot of interesting words. um,
Yeah,
and so I use that book, and I make erasure poetry in that old book.
interesting.
Yeah,
I,
that's what you're
I,
talking about. Is a little bit. It's like related to that. It's adjacent to it.
it's similar. I actually kind of it was influenced, interpreted from Bowie did something like that, where he would in the '70s he would take words and cut them out.
Yeah,
You cut them out and you arrange them. So
yeah,
Spies, Rooftop, Sabotage is like a perfect example of that. But this is my own way of being influenced by like what he was doing in a similar way, and it's kind of exciting because it's the same thing with painting. Like I'll just start and just do something, and then it all will kind of. A lot of times with songs, like I struggle with this one for this last song. Like, is it good enough? But you have to see it through. Like paintings, like most paintings I start, I'm just not happy with at all. I don't like them. But once I give them a chance, they'll kind of show their face
huh.
and be a little bit worthwhile. So it's kind of that. There's a technique that it's called something too. They call it something. I think Tom Waits has used it as well, but it's derived from that
It goes under the
idea.
larger umbrella category of found poetry, and like the various ways that you can. I mean, there's so many different types of found poetry, but
Yeah.
that's one of the. It's almost like the idea behind refrigerator magnets, except
That's exactly what it
way
is.
more
Yeah.
interesting than like that collection of words that you
It's,
get in a refrigerator magnet.
and you can pick up the LA Times, New York Times, the
Yeah.
Detroit Free Press. Ooh, shout out to the Free Press. And just thumb through the paper, and
Yeah.
anything can, influence you. But I'm curious, and I'm sure the listeners are as well. Can you tell me a little bit about your songwriting process and your
Oh,
creative
my songwriting
process?
process. Oh boy. What can I
Because
tell
you're a
you?
great writer.
Oh, thank you.
You're a great writer. Yeah.
What is my process? I journal a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I recently started trying to map out, like, kind of codify my process. Actually,
Interesting.
yeah, only because I found myself like every time I would sit down to write a song, it was like I was reinventing the wheel. But in retrospect, when I would look back on how did I do it, I realized that I was kind of following the same method. And now I can't remember if I don't know where I wrote it down. That's like me, typical me, is that I would like figure out
The code is lost.
the code and then I would lose it.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times it comes from a concept, an idea, not always from a title. It doesn't always end up in a title, but I think that that's like sort of the seed of the song is a feeling, I guess. I've been wanting to. I wish I knew where I put that code, because that was kind of brilliant that I even did that, and then I forgot that I did it. But maybe it's right here.
It's interesting that you actually figured it out.
Yeah, right. It's fascinating, and then I just love that I then closed it up in a journal, and then who knows what happened to it. But wait, I'm seeing some maps here. Oh yeah, I totally found it.
Wow.
Whoa. This is what I wrote down. I'm telling you the secret, and I don't know that this
Wow. Let me get my notebook.
No, seriously, this is really funny. This was really like something that I was sketching out, and I was like, okay, note to self, dig into this a little bit more. But it was just simply like I usually start from an idea or a title, one or the other, and then I end up free writing on that idea for 10 minutes or something, just like exploring what it is, and then I somehow choose in that what are the most interesting ideas to me, and from there kind of have a map of how the song is going to go.
Great.
And somewhere in there, I guess I'm trying to decide. I'm starting to think about structure of the song. Is it going to be Usually I come into a song wanting to do something like, oh, I just learned a new chord. I want to integrate that into the
Okay.
song. Or,
All right.
oh, I really want to, include this like internal rhyme, or I don't know. There's usually something for myself
Some
that I'm like,
trigger, yeah, some
yeah,
fire spark.
I don't know. I think that's the best I can give you, honestly. And the song that I'm gonna play right now is really like the simplest of simple country songs, which I've got to like hold it up to this map and see. Did I do it this
Adhere
way?
to the code. Did you adhere to
I'm
the
not
code? Ooh,
sure if
that's an
I
album title.
adhere to the code.
I like that. I could write that down actually.
I like that.
I'm gonna.
That is so funny. I had forgotten that I mapped this out. I've been doing a lot of mind mapping lately and just trying to like clarify my thinking on a number of fronts. Like, oh, I think about this thing a lot. Is there a method to this, or is there a, can I put it down in a picture on the page so that I can look at it rather than have it stuck in my head? I've been doing that a lot with things lately.
Interesting.
This song though is it's a Christmas song. I played it last week as well in this show because soon I can't play this song for another year, and so I was like, okay, I wanna play it a couple times because I like it. Because it's when I say it's a Christmas song, I mean that it takes place during the Christmas time of year, but actually it's a breakup song, and it's a song about it's a song about that a precise moment before a relationship ends. It's that epiphany moment, I guess. Epiphany doesn't seem like the right word, but there's a moment that's hard.
Enlightening moment. Enlightening maybe.
Maybe there's a moment in time when you're in a relationship and there's something unconscious in you, just below your consciousness, and it's not working. The relationship's not working, but you haven't realized it. And as it rises in your consciousness, at some point, something tips, and then the relationship's over. And the song is kind of about that moment,
Okay.
and it takes place during Christmas. I wanna just look at the chat box for a moment because Mark, you were saying a lot of things. The Ohio players' lyrics were most often derived
Oh, wonderful.
from one word. I'm gonna show Mark. Thank you.
Oh, please. I'd
There
like
we
to
go.
read that.
Were most often derived from one word. Roller coaster fire. Okay, so that's cool, Mark.
Really? Can you say thank you, Mark?
He can hear you. Who's watching the show?
Oh.
And then he says this: the music was almost always written first. The lyrics were almost. Oh, by the way, seemed to work. Yeah, for me, music and lyrics come at the same, more or less at the same time, because I feel like
Interesting.
the melody influences the words that I choose,
Sure,
and the
they
words
have to.
influence the melody.
Mhm.
So it's sort of all happening at one time. Thank you,
It's
Mark. That
ve-
was cool for you to enter the
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
conversation.
It's very interesting that you choose because I'm uh, very similar where I'll select a hooky title and then wow, my phone just started talking to me. That's really weird. That's strange. But anyway, I'll take like the best of a bad year or Falling from the Sun, or those are some of my favorite titles. And then or Your Heartbeat is Revolution, and then I'll build upon that. And I'm a very melodic, I'm a lyric and melody guy, so I'll start with the hook first, and I'll just build
Yeah.
around it. Like if I don't,
Yeah.
I call that the meat and potatoes of the song. If I can get grasp onto that, then the rest will, with a little
Yeah.
work, will fall into place.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
very
right.
similar to what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, same here. The changes underneath and the rhythm underneath, that to me it's like when I record it, then it gets solidified, but the story and the melody are kind of the beginning of it for me.
Do you find that by the time you get to recording, that song has changed quite a bit from its original inception?
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, I do. I I know that some people are like they write a song, they go into the studio, they record it. I would love to be there, but I'm not that confident in myself I want to like stew and marinate a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I need, because when I first write a song, I as soon as it's done the first time, I'm like, this is awesome, and then the next day I
Sure.
come to it and I'm like, oh, wait a second.
Uh,
That first verse is just a lot of hemming and hawing and doesn't make
mm,
much sense. Let's start with the second verse. And then,
mm,
so songs that I wrote at the beginning
mm,
of this year are, some of them are just starting to solidify now after playing them
mm.
on my Friday night. I do a Friday night live stream,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Mark is often in that Friday night live stream. Mark, you have heard like the evolution of a lot of those songs over the year.
Wow,
Um,
wow.
yeah, it changes a lot from until I record it. What about you? Do you find that they do that?
You know, I'm like you. I plus record is expensive, so
Yes.
thinking, I have to go in ready, and
Yeah.
I've always, I've never had the luxury of like, oh, take as long as you want. It costs. So I think
I
number
think there's a
one, out of
benefit to that
necessity.
though. I think the
Yeah.
benefit,
Oh
it's like the
yeah.
upside.
Oh yeah, because you go in like with a full vision, like you know exactly what you want to do.
Mm,
Um, as far as the structure with the Arthur Adams stuff, it pretty much will stay. But like that, for instance, this song, um, I thought about maybe actually something very sparse with it.
mm,
But sometimes we sit down at the piano or guitar and we envision, okay, I want a horn section and I want this and that. So that's kind of in my head, like right, pretty quick, pretty quick. But the chords and the structure are there, and I'm probably not going to deviate much from that. But the
yeah.
instrumentation is going to develop in the studio, of course. And sometimes I'm surprised, like, wow, that horn section makes a song so much better than I could have ever dreamed. Like
Yeah.
what they did to it. Like the first song on Your Heartbeat is Revolution was just
Mm.
like my grandfather was into saxophone, and I was thinking about my grandfather Arthur, and it was just like, wow, these guys are like making the song better than I could have ever dreamed. So
Yeah.
I've been grateful to work with a lot of wonderful producers. So they take the song and they take it to space, but it starts from a very chill spot. This song, um, sometimes I go in like, oh, I'm just gonna make a sparse record, and then I get excited. And like, yeah, we should definitely put a sitar in this. Yeah, we should definitely do Tibetan bells, and yeah, we definitely a timpani. So it just becomes this big thing. But I think the next thing that I do will just be myself at a piano and
Yeah.
guitar, just like you heard it. Something I think restrain myself and only use two paintbrushes, because I think
Yeah.
when you limit yourself, you're gonna find something creative. I only have two paintbrushes to use, so I've got to be more creative. And I
Yeah.
think I just want to do something that's just like super raw.
Yeah.
So it doesn't change too much in the studio because it's all I kind of know I can hear it in my head,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
just kind of, but
You know what's funny is the idea. So the first track on my new album, A Thousand Tiny Torches. The
I
first
love
track
that one.
is,
It's a
thank
great
you.
song.
The first track
Yeah.
is You Are Light, and this is a weird thing about that song, which is that I worked with Shane Alexander, wonderful producer. It was great working with him and all the folks who worked on the record. But that song does not sound the way that I had envisioned it sounding.
Mm.
Instrumentation, we started to make different choices in the studio, and it ended up going in a different direction. And I love the way it came out. And simultaneously, I have in my head the way it came out and the way that we didn't do it. And
Interesting.
it's kind of weird to kind of have this song living. It feels alive to me in both directions. And in
Wow.
in the path that it didn't take, there are French horns, and it's like
Oh wow.
it's a very different sounding song. I don't know. One day, I hope, I think that in the back of my mind, there's this hope that one day I can just play a show with an orchestra,
You
and
get there.
and can
Wow.
hear that song, in that other way, like actually hear it out in the world the way I hear it in my
Ooh,
head.
that's heavy. Yeah. You'll get there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's interesting.
sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes, we did one song on Your Heartbeat's Revolution that we put a lot of instrumentation on it, and I'm like, man, it's campy now. I don't like
Mm,
it. It's not very good. And just strip it right back down to piano, and we did some kind of weird Tom Waits percussive thing. I'm like, okay, now I'm happy with it. So we took it back where it was, and like,
yeah.
it didn't need all that stuff. So sometimes we're, obviously
Yeah.
I'm wrong a lot, but sometimes in the studio you're like, okay, that it didn't work. Let's just go back to where we were, and that's where that song wants to be. You have to let songs. You have to get out of their way
Yeah.
and listen to what they want in such a
Yeah.
way. And that was just a case of like, all right, I'm just gonna. It's telling me to leave it alone and
Yeah.
just let it be the
Yeah.
way it was.
And then I
So
had this other song on my last album. The song is She Prefer You Were a Girl. And that song, I had no idea. I had no vision for it. And I was so glad that I was co producing that album with this awesome composer, Chris Florio, because we were working on all the other songs on that record. And I had a vision for all of them except She Prefer You Were a Girl. And I was at my wit's end. I was like, honestly, Chris, I'm just throwing it to you. I don't know what to do with this. And the next
we've
day,
all been there.
the next time I came back to the studio, he had like built a world around the
Wow.
song, and I was like, oh, that's exactly what
Wow.
this like. That's what the sculpture wanted to be. Like you were able to take all that
Wow.
stuff off.
How did
And
that
now I can
feel?
see it. Oh, it's one of my favorite
Yes,
songs on that
it's,
record. It's just it's so. And once he had done that, then I was like, oh yeah, I hear these vocal harmonies, and like, then it was like, oh, I got something to work with now. But yeah, that was a cool feeling. I love collaboration in that way.
yeah, that's a feeling that is like no other when the people that you choose to perform on the record put their heart into it. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's how I heard the pedal steel going. You nailed it, and oh my gosh. And can I hug you? So it's kind of a, it's really, and again, I've been so grateful to work with some amazing producers that have really, they're the ones kind of twisting the knobs, and they're the ones really kind of facilitating what you see and what your vision is, and
Yeah.
and to have it come through the speakers, like, oh man, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
But
Totally
that
agree.
first record, that first song, your record, you do something. I can't. It's like reminding me like of a Kate Bush kind of thing or something.
Huh.
Are you a fan of hers?
I have never gotten into Kate Bush, but I've had a lot of people over the years reference her when they hear me. So there's definitely something
That's a
there.
good thing.
In fact, um, not Shane. I'm not sure about Shane, but the Chris Florio, the producer of the previous record, he was a huge Kate Bush fan.
Mm,
And so,
mm.
that's really interesting.
It's a
Huh.
great song. It might be my favorite one
Thank
off your
you.
record, but it's really great. But you're a great storyteller, and that's a rare. Some of my favorite songwriters are storytellers, and
Mm,
it's a rare gift, and you have that. It's really
mm.
it's inspiring.
Thank you
It's
for
very
that.
good. Yeah.
Appreciate that. I grew up on story songs when I was little, so um, what some of my favorite songs. One of my favorite songs was a Harry Chapin song called "Taxi,"
Yes.
and I loved. It's just so evocative. It's just such an interesting. There's just a story to it. Paul Simon's songwriting, story
Yeah.
songs. A lot
Talking
of
my
those.
language.
Yeah, yeah. So my dad was a guitar well, not a professional guitar player, but he used to play acoustic guitar. And when I was little, I mean, he was just a kid when he had me, and
Yeah.
he was just a young guy in his 20s, with his new baby, and
Wow.
playing his acoustic guitar, and he was playing, those guys and um, Joan
Jim
Baez and
Croce,
yep, exactly. All that
Joni
stuff. I
Mitchell.
was actually shocked when I went to summer camp when I was a kid, a little bit older though, and we were sitting around a campfire one night, and some older boy had a guitar and started playing, American Pie, and everybody started singing. I was like, how do you all know this song? Like, I was really confused about, he played a whole bunch of other songs and everybody knew these songs. City of New Orleans and and I was like, how is it that they all know these songs? Because I had only ever heard them through my dad
Wow.
at that
Wow.
age.
So it was like, wait, how do you know this is my dad's song?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
So, but this is a I guess we'll just close it up with this holiday song, holiday heartbreak song, about that moment, that moment when the relationship ends. There's something about the carols, or something about the booze, that makes me think I got nothing left to lose. 'Cause the Yule log's burning brightly, but I'm here on Christmas Eve, thinking maybe it's time for me to leave. Every station's playing, I'll be home for Christmas. How the melody once filled me with good cheer, but with every glass you pour, I feel more sorrow. In this house, it's a lonely time of year. Hung up our old stockings from a hook above the hearth, wishing the year would end with a fresh start. There's tinsel on my suitcase, I hid the mistletoe. Well, maybe it's time for me to go. Every station's playing, I'll be home for Christmas. How the melody once filled me with good cheer, but with every glass you pour, I feel more sorrow. In this house, it's a lonely time of year. It's an icy two-lane black top, my wallet short on cash. I always have a reason holding me back. While the snow falls like confetti, I'm weeping on the tree, 'cause the truth is I'm longing to be free. And that star up in the night sky that's shining through the snow, I think it's telling me it's time for me to go. Every station's playing, I'll be home for Christmas. How the melody once filled me with good cheer, but with every glass you pour, I feel more sorrow. You may be home, but you're never really here. In this house, it's a lonely time of year.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. There's your brilliant storytelling in the guitar there. In the song. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting doing this because I like to watch the hands, see the chords that people are playing. So I couldn't quite pick them out, but that's another great song. That's wonderful. I'm a big fan.
That is an honor. Thank you so much. Means a lot. I'm a huge fan of yours as well, so
Mm.
love that. Thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a great conversation, and I'm really just glad that we've had this time.
It's been wonderful. It's heartwarming, and I thank you so much for having me. And
Yeah.
keep doing the great work that you're doing, because I see out there. It's wonderful, and I'm an honored to be on your show, and have a great holiday. And I'm grateful, and thank you.
Yay. And you stay right there. I'm just going to say goodbye. So everybody say goodbye to Arthur Autumn.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. I will be back on Facebook and YouTube tomorrow, every Friday. Actually, I shouldn't say every Friday because I'm going to take the last 2 weeks of the year off. But we got 2 more. Thank you, Mark, for being here. Appreciate your chiming in with the creative process. That was fun. And thank you so much to Arthur Autumn. Please, please, please listen to his new record. It is awesome. It's so good. And you can find that in the show notes and anywhere I think that you stream music. And next week we have Lisa Bastoni from Boston joining us. And she is a Boston Music Award nominee. And I think that they announced the winners this week. So we'll find out. But until we see each other again, please be safe. Please be safe. Oh my gosh, stay, wear your masks, do whatever you got to do, and also find joy in the process. This too shall pass. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.